Hey, this is Bill Tromley from Tromley Tool in East Troy, Wisconsin. Today is not a metal shaping video. I know this is William Tromley Metal Shaping, and that some of the people watching this video is looking for metal shaping content, and that's not what this video is for. As some of you know, I'm an aircraft mechanic and I'm an A&P and an IA, and we recently had an aircraft incident that occurred, and that's what this video is for. It's in an effort to help get that information out to owner, operators, and mechanics. So what this is in regards to is, it was actually here at East Troy Airport in Wisconsin. Its airport number is 57 Charlie, where we had a loss of a deHavilland Chipmunk. The owner was new to the airplane. He had had it for a very short amount of time, and he had a loss of power, which caused an off-airport landing. As some of you know, I work on deHavilland airplanes, work on deHavilland Chipmunks here in Wisconsin and Illinois, as well as I've traveled to other airplanes around the country. So the FAA had asked if I could get involved with the post-crash investigation. So the airplane had landed short of our grass strip, runway 36 here, that's here at the airport. The pilot had reported that when entering downwind, he had made a fuel selector change from one tank to the other. So what we had noticed was when we were in the field, the fuel selector was altered. So instead of the original deHavilland on and off, the fuel selector was changed to right tank, left tank, or off. So when he was on downwind and he had noticed a loss of power, he had switched from one side to the other. Now the tank that he switched to read 3 gallons on the gas gauge. When we looked at the airplane in the field, it read 3 gallons as well. The airplane was so heavily damaged, it was a total loss. It's beyond economical repair. But the pilot is okay. He did get a little bit banged up, but he was able to walk away from it, and he's doing okay. The airplane was moved back to his hangar, and I met with the FAA there, and when we started looking at the fuel system, the tanks were dry, and yet the fuel gauge read 3 gallons, and I'll show you why. And that's what this video is about. So you can see here the needle, as I move the float, is not moving. And what occurs is these fuel gauges are mounted out in the wings. And I've actually seen this happen on Fairchild PT 19s, 23s, and 26s. I was involved with a Fairchild PT 26. The fuel gauges were also mounted out in the wings. And what will happen is if the airplane sits outside, give you an example, would be like up at Oshkosh during the air show and it rains, condensation will form inside the glass. And it'll corrode the gimbal that the needle sits on. So this here, we took the instrument apart, and in here you can see the small pointer, and that's the gimbal that this rides on. And that metal plate, this plate here, is driven by, underneath this here is a magnet. And this is a magnetically coupled instrument. So as it moves up and down, that rotates. And the magnetic field from one drives this metal plate. It's the same thing on a Fairchild instrument. Stinson L5s are this way. A lot of instruments are. It's called magnetically coupled. And they do that so that the fuel stays on the fuel side of the instrument, and it cannot get up on the glass or the pointer side. So it's a very common process. But even in here you can see the corrosion that exists on this, that rust. So what will happen is that gimbal will corrode. On this piece here, that pointer will corrode and cause this needle to stick. Fairchild Aircraft had written a service bulletin So this service bulletin is dated July 10th, 1944. It's service bulletin number 44-33. It's in regards to reworking of fuel gauges. In order to prevent fuel gauges from corroding, which will result in moisture under the lens, and how to take it apart and clean it. So this video will be posted on the deHavilland Chipmunk page on Facebook, as well as the Fairchild PT page on Facebook. And I'll have a copy of this service bulletin that goes with it. For guys that are not on social media that yet watch this video, send me a message and I will email you a copy of the service bulletin. Even though the service bulletin is for an American instrument, the concept is the same. They're both magnetically coupled instruments that suffer from corrosion on gimbals. And the service bulletin will explain how to go through that. So on here, you guys will recognize this piece here. And this is where the fuel cap goes, and this mounts in the wing on a Chipmunk. And the instrument mounts in that opening there. What's important to do, and I do this at every annual inspection, is I remove the fuel cap and you'll see the float in the hole, like that. And I take my finger and I reach in through where the fuel cap hole is and I actuate the float. And what I'm looking for is that the needle moves free and clear. There's no hesitation to it, there's no catch in it, and that it moves freely. And I do that on both fuel tanks. And I do this on deHavilland Chipmunks and on Fairchild's PT series airplanes, is to make sure that every year at annual, the needles move freely. For pilots, you can actually do the same thing. So if you see that the gauge condensates over, let the mechanic know, show him the service bulletin. And also, throughout the year, when you're adding fuel, you should see the needle move free and clear. Also, you too can reach in there and actuate the float. Be mindful of sticking anything in the gas tank. If you're going to stick a stick in there or something to actuate the float, that the stick is clean. It's amazing how much dirt we'll find sometimes in a fuel sump from having dirty contaminants going in through the filler neck. That's the only way the dirt can get in there. If you drop the stick in there or you break something off, there too, you have to fish it out of the tank. Don't leave any contaminant in the tank. It's got to come out. The other thing is, on these airplanes, is the fuel tanks are a rubber bladder. So don't go in there and poke the tank, because if you poke the tank, you could rip it or tear it or puncture it. So if any of that happens, you got to let a mechanic know, and it has to be addressed before further flight. I know some of you are thinking, well, I use my watch and I never trust a fuel gauge, and I understand. I'm a pilot as well, so I understand that mindset. However, when you get pushed into an emergency situation, being mindful of all of that might not be as easy as you think, especially with the pressure of an in-flight emergency. And it might be something that's easy to overlook. So always make sure that the gauges are working properly. It's not hard to do, it's an easy thing, and verify it and check it. So if you got questions, put it in the comments down below. If you guys want the service bulletin, let me know and I'll email it to you. And try to stay safe, and that's the only way that we can help preserve these airplanes. So remember to keep an eye on that stuff, and even though the airplane was a total loss, the pilot did walk away, and that's what's important. So have a good day.